We're finally seeing progress for hundreds of people awaiting court-ordered mental health treatment, but the federal government is still far from satisfied. Xcel Energy wants to change the way it's billing customers, and it could make it cheaper to use electricity when you actually want to use it. Well, kinda.
You can't ask the kids to, let's pile up on the couch and play video games and watch a movie at 9 p.m. on a school night. Doesn't work.
And after decades together on the diamond, America's oldest softball team is still going strong.
I just feel that I'm blessed being out here with all these wonderful women having fun.
It's quickly turning into our favorite annual tradition. The Peach Bowl returns tonight on Next. There are hundreds of people sitting in jail cells this evening that have been there far longer than they should be. We don't even know, in fact, if they're guilty or innocent. Colorado's backlog at the state mental hospitals has forced long delays in criminal trials. Our Kelly Rinke shows us this evening why beds are now hoping to change that.
A case in Boulder begins with a call to a Lucky's Market. Police respond and find Patricia Murphy inside, holding a knife court documents say she used to stab an officer. Murphy's court case is now on hold because she's too mentally ill to stand trial.
A year ago today, while our wait list sat at about 445 people or so waiting in jail, today we're at about 240.
Leora Joseph is the director of the Office of Behavioral Health. The wait list for treatment is the lowest it's been in years since the pandemic.
We were able to offer incentives to our nurses to come and work for us. We opened 44 new beds, forensic beds, at the Fort Logan State Hospital, which had never had forensic patients. We've been contracting throughout the state.
The state is still far from compliance under a consent decree. Because of the backlog, they entered into an agreement in federal court in 2019 to meet certain deadlines.
We are working hard. The consent decree gives us until the end of 2027 in order to be in compliance.
Under the consent decree, Colorado is required to get people into restoration treatment within 7 to 28 days. As of April 2024, wait times were between about 55 to 106 days.
So I think that, we continue to feel like more needs to be done.
Megan Baker is with Disability Law Colorado, who sued the state in 2011 over the wait times and won. She's staying cautiously optimistic.
So I think we've finally gotten enough momentum to start impacting some of the systemic changes that are really required.
The criminal justice system stops when someone is found incompetent. Fewer people on the wait list means fewer delays to cases.
We're feeling like we've made a lot of progress.
So there's a new law in Colorado that hopes to reduce these wait times. It would divert certain people to wraparound services if they've been charged with a low-level crime, and then the courts are required to dismiss those charges once they complete that program, but that program hasn't started yet.
In a sense, this is a bit of a new problem. Before the pandemic, we didn't have such a backlog.
No, so they entered this consent decree in 2019, and they were almost in compliance. Their wait list was down to less than 100 people. So when you think about all the problems that the pandemic came with, it just compounded this issue, and now we have this backlog.
And it is a backlog that they're hoping to clear. Kelly Salinger, Kelly Rinke, slip of the tongue there. Thank you. This hot, dry stretch is once again causing problems for firefighters who are now battling a new fire north of Roxborough State Park that just triggered some voluntary evacuation orders. That fire is burning off of North Rampart Range Road in Douglas County near the Foothills Water Treatment Plant. Just started within the last hour or so. We've already seen a lot of smoke in that area. So far, though, it has only burned about 2 acres of brush and grass, but firefighters say it is spreading. Firefighters say it is close to the buildings at the water treatment plant in that area. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office just issued voluntary evacuations for Rampart Range Road and Roxborough Park Road. We don't know yet how that fire started. At this point, South Metro and West Metro fire departments are both responding as those firefighters are once again put to the test with these hot, dry weather conditions. Want to bring in Kathy Sabin tonight because, Kathy, even though we saw that rain earlier this week, it doesn't take long for everything to just dry out all of a sudden again.
Mark, you're so right. We talk about fire season being year-round in Colorado. Unfortunately, I'm watching the wind map really closely. Wind direction consistently out of the east and southeast, but the winds in the last half hour have really been increasing, especially across Jefferson County, Douglas County, and Elbert County, east-southeast to about 20 miles per hour. So that would push that grass fire west and north. So fire managers on their toes with temperatures today in the 80s ahead of the warmest day of the week, which will be tomorrow. Really just a beautiful late summer day along the Front Range. Visibility's been great, temperatures comfortable, and the only showers that we're tracking are over southern Colorado. This warm, calm weather pattern looks to last through the week into the weekend. The monsoon moisture is pushed south of the area, watching a cool front approach from the northwest. The only showers we're tracking are around Alamosa and Trinidad, and there was one little teeny storm that popped up around the Burlington area, not doing a whole lot. So severe weather threat well east of our area tonight, north of our area tomorrow. And so what we're looking at is comfortable temperatures tonight, but tomorrow will be the warmest day of the week with a high of 92 ahead of a cool front that brings us the coolest day of the week, Thursday. Right now, I love the forecast for the upcoming holiday weekend, Mark. We've got sunshine and 80s for Saturday, Sunday, and Labor Day.
Kathy, thank you. Colorado lawmakers took a break from their summers to return to the Capitol again today. The goal, of course, is to hammer out a property tax compromise to avoid measures being put on the ballot in November. But because this is Colorado, the conversation, of course, turned to wolves. House lawmakers debated two main property tax bills today. One would limit future property tax increases and slightly expand some tax cuts that are already signed into law. That bill is part of a compromise to get two massive property tax cuts off the ballot in November. Those initiatives would cost the state billions of dollars to backfill local governments and school districts. A second bill up for debate would update the state constitution to require local approval of any future statewide property tax initiatives. So why do we have wolves on our screen right now? Well, Republicans tried to amend that bill to also require local approval of statewide efforts to reintroduce predatory species like wolves in the future. That failed. Most of the bills introduced yesterday have already died as well. That includes Democratic efforts to limit property tax cuts for second homes and expand cuts for low-income families. We'll keep following the special session as we wait and see what comes out of it. The time is 6:06. I'm not trying to encourage you to turn off your TV right now, but we're here to let you know that until 7 p.m. every night, Xcel Energy charges the highest rate for their electricity that you're using right now. I hope you haven't hit the off button yet, because our Marshall Zellender found out changes proposed for this upcoming year will impact your family habits even more.
Turning on the air costs different depending on what time of day it is. Something you cannot determine by the AC's sound. Xcel currently charges the peak rate for energy from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. year-round. In a draft presentation obtained by 9 News, Xcel will propose to state regulators an expansion of the peak time in the summer months from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m. However, it will come with a lower peak rate.
You can't ask the kids to, oh, let's pile up on the couch and play video games and watch a movie at 9 p.m. on a school night. Doesn't work.
Cindy Schoenhout is the director of the Office of Utility Consumer Advocate, the people who represent Xcel customers in front of the Public Utilities Commission. Xcel will submit its new time of use proposal to the PUC next week. The details could still change, but it shows a longer peak period during the summertime, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., and from October to the end of May, the peak period is listed at 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Some people have only recently gotten their new smart meters, so you just adjusted to the 3 to 7 p.m. highest prices. And now, within a year or less, you'd be asked to change those habits.
In an emailed statement, Xcel said it will incentivize energy usage, meaning the cheapest rate, when sun and wind are generating the most electricity. After the sun sets, Xcel said customer usage remains relatively high.
Who has time in the morning when you get the kids ready for school to get your laundry done, cook for dinner? I mean, by then the kids are out the door in their pajamas getting on the school bus, right?
Xcel said in its email, the proposed changes do not impact Xcel revenue.
The company will never lose money. They don't propose anything that will end up giving them less money.
Under this proposal, there would just be two rates, on-peak and off-peak. No more 2-hour mid-peak pricing during the week. Commercial customers, meaning businesses, will have an hour longer of that peak pricing until 10 p.m. The Xcel presentation said that residential customers' peak pricing would end at 9 p.m. to, quote, alleviate rate acceptance concerns.
Marshall, is there a way to force people to use electricity at the times when the electricity is cheaper? I mean, we just heard about it, like you're not going to do your laundry as you're getting your kids ready for school, but is there a way to force people to just use it at a time when they have more?
Cindy and I were talking about that because there's a part of the presentation about curtailing, and I guess that's when wind energy is at its greatest, and perhaps it either gets wasted or has to be sold to other utilities. And between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., it appears that the wind is there. And so the question is, would Xcel ever make that like a super dirt cheap rate and say, this is when you should be using the electricity? Xcel, in its email to me, said that's something they may consider.
Yeah. Well, this is the part of the show that we remind you, hey, we still got 20 more minutes. Don't turn off the TV just yet. Marshall, thank you.
This program, it has a lot more restrictions that make it so that you aren't eligible.
A border policy tug of war continues. President Biden's latest program isn't sitting well with immigration opponents or advocates. And America's oldest softball team returns to the field in a tradition that's becoming a family affair. That's next. Banning books inside the library wasn't enough for a school district in Elbert County. Now they're also cracking down on books that teachers have handing around in their classrooms. Earlier this month, the conservative school board in Elizabeth announced 19 books would be pulled off school library shelves, and about 100 more would be placed on what they're calling a sensitive book list. And that list is pretty broad, including any books mentioning religious views, drug use, profanity, LGBTQ issues, or sexual content. All of those will be flagged in the school library system, and parents will be notified whenever their kids try and check one of them out. So that means if your kid checks out a book like the Children's Illustrated Bible or Noah's Ark, for example, both of those are on the list, you're getting an email. But school board members now say that doesn't go far enough. So last night, the district also decided to review each book inside each classroom. Teachers would be required to remove books with what they call sensitive content.
You elected us on these values to keep the majority values in mind of this community. And that is what we are going to do.
If you want your kid to have access to materials, you can go to Amazon. You can go to the thrift store. You can go down to the public library and get it for your child. We are an educational institution. We're not a public library.
Eventually, the district plans to either provide approved titles for classroom libraries or have classroom libraries removed altogether. Elizabeth is just the latest district to change their library policies in the face of mounting book challenges. The Colorado Times Recorder was the first to report that El Paso County's District 20 is now allowing parents to either prohibit middle school students from checking out young adult titles or prohibiting them from checking out books altogether. The Biden administration is attempting to roll out a new program that they say will help 500,000 immigrants stay in the United States. It faces criticism from Republican-led states who argue it's an amnesty program, but immigration advocates say it doesn't go far enough. Here's our Angeline McCall.
People who immigrated to the United States learned 2 months ago of a new program that could help them.
And we've been waiting ever since then for rules.
Jennifer Piper with the American Friends Service Committee here in Denver says the Keeping Families Together program will allow people to gain access to parole, mainly if they're married to a U.S. citizen or a stepchild of one.
So what this parole would do is really allow people to go through the same process, meet all the same requirements, but not have to face that bar that slows everything down and separates people.
The goal is to keep families together while waiting for an answer on their immigration case.
So in that way, it's really exciting. What was disappointing that we learned yesterday is that this program, it has a lot more restrictions that make it so that you aren't eligible than are in current law.
Those requirements mean that people who have more than a traffic offense, in most cases, will not be eligible.
But what was surprising to us is that even if someone has made one mistake 10 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe as a teenager they had a trespassing charge, that makes you ineligible for this program.
The program will help 500,000 people.
It's about 4% of the total people would qualify for this program under the rules.
It's the largest program the country has seen since the Dreamer program over 12 years ago. But advocates say it still leaves out the vast majority of people who will continue to live in limbo.
And I think the sentiment overall is a feeling of happiness for the people who will qualify. But every single person I talked to knew at least one person, if not multiple other people in their family, who were going to be excluded by these rules.
Angeline McCall reporting there. The program will likely be subject to a drawn-out legal battle. In fact, just this afternoon, a federal judge in Texas ordered that the Biden administration temporarily stop approving applications for the program. President Biden released a statement calling the decision wrong and saying that it will cause families to be needlessly separated.
The rest of the team call me Mom because all the rest of the team could be my daughters.
A Colorado softball team is still taking the field into their 80s and 90s. Now a younger generation is taking the field as well with them. That's next. It is peach season in Colorado, but for one group of peaches, the season ended today. The Colorado Peaches is an all-female softball team. Their youngest player is 55. The oldest is 92. Our Tom Cole shows us it's becoming a family affair.
Teams, like in any sport,
second base!
Really can be like family.
You got it.
Nowhere was that more evident
Ma, she's heading on this side.
than at Addenbrook Park in Lakewood on Tuesday morning.
Whoops.
69-year-old Deborah Johnson is playing softball with her 90-year-old mom.
It's like a dream come true. It's just kind of really cool. When I was in high school, she was my high school softball coach for my sister and I. There it is, Denise.
Oh yeah, there's another member of the family on this team.
I am Denise, the middle child, and I am 66.
This family affair reminds me of the old saying, you're a peach, and if there were two of you, you'd be a
pair. Oh, there's three of us, so what are we, triple sec?
Actually, there's another.
Gentleman over there that's keeping score for us is my son.
Dean wants to write down a hit for you.
Dean,
and I'm 62,
is taking over the scorekeeping for his dad.
It's impressive and scary. It only takes a fall. But we would much rather have her happy and enjoy it, because if she sat home, she wouldn't be happy.
The gang is here.
They're all here except Dad, who passed away in June.
Strike.
My mom and Dad were a team. They were always together.
Oh, you made all those outs, Mom. Good job.
You look good.
It looks as if this group is really more than just a team.
Looking good, ladies.
For next, I'm Tom Cole.
More than just a team, they're family. Marilyn with the feedback. Thank you. We'll be right back. As you know, we cover the important news here on Next, so if you're still down about J-Lo and Ben Affleck, we've got some happy celebrity couple news for you on tonight's episode of Nest. See what we did there? Colorado's unluckiest bird parents, the Stanley Lake Eagles, will soon be empty nesters, but it's good news. Their 3 eaglets are flying and learning to hunt for themselves. It's the first time the couple's eaglets have gotten this close to adulthood since 2021. Their last 3 rounds of eaglets all sadly passed away due to nest troubles and other problems. If everything goes well, the eaglets will be leaving the nest sometime this fall. Quick feedback from Justina. She asks, what if you just opt out of the Xcel pricing and just go for the type of Xcel pricing that just keeps the same all throughout the year? Marshall did that, and he says it saves you 21 cents.